cash crisis. We're talking about Venezuela once again. Systemic important banks. They removed the 1,000 thing on there called monetary awareness. All right, we are live for a aftermarket RTD news check-in. Excited to connect as always. Looking forward to sharing with you some headlines that caught my attention and to shine more light on the bigger picture outside of the distractions that's given to us throughout the day. And so I'm going to shuffle the schedule a little bit and try to check in just to go through some headlines this afternoon-ish. And then I'll look to connect again tonight at 9:30 to do our late night. Had fun checking in. I think more people time-wise are able to connect in and unplug and unwind and share their 2 cents. So as always, want to just encourage those that are new to the community, definitely hit that thumbs up button, show your support for the channel. And then also click that bell notification so you can be notified when we go live as well as when I upload videos. So hope everyone is doing well. As always, any new viewers, let me know where you're watching from in the chat. I'd love to acknowledge your presence real quick and then jump into lots of headlines and give us something to chew on. But ultimately, when it comes to this financial monetary restructuring, despite the volatility based upon all the manipulation and all the fraudulent paper moving, paper pushing, digital pushing stuff out there, once you have that long-term viewpoint as to what's real, tested, tried, and true in reference to just wealth preservation, we all know what you should definitely have a hold of, in my personal opinion. And I'm going to probably conclude today with just combing through some of the fiat currencies that are experiencing extreme pressure as more governments and central banks try to, collaborate how they're going to bring things down for a soft landing, crash landing, whatever they try to do. But mind you, it's all a part of that psychosis that I hinted at last night. Just diversion tactics, distractions, and deception. Anyway, hope everyone's doing well. I want to be short, concise, and sweet, get to the point, share my thoughts on some headlines, and jump right in. So as always, make sure you guys click that subscribe button and bell notification. Throw thoughts out there, and if I get to the very end, I'll try to take some questions or whatnot. But let's just jump right in, man. Let me get my screens together here. Just share with you some things that caught my attention. And so once again, what we're experiencing is just not an isolated event. So if you're here in America, United States of America, rather, definitely a good way to assess the rate at which things are crumbling is to keep an eye on events as they unfold globally, because this is just not a 300 million or so experience. This is a 7-point-something billion people experience. And so we can learn a lot and possibly stay ahead of this meltdown by paying attention to what's happening in other countries. So I'm going to start off by just going through some headlines that caught my attention and then share my 2 cents on it. So as always, appreciate everybody and welcome to the fold. For those that are new, I see a lot of people out there checking in. Appreciate you guys, man. And also, so this is a great opportunity for those that are part of the community. So a lot of these articles come from the Discord and Telegram. So I want to make sure I put this up here. Let me just grab this real quick so I can make sure people know how to connect. And so for those that are interested, send news articles and stories and whatnot to rtdnews@proton.mail. protonmail.com, and then I can comb through those and grab those as well, because if you're in a different country, I'm not able to comb every country, but yet it'll help if you send it to me, and I'll try to at least bring it to the forefront for the community to take a look at. So all right, let's jump right in, man. So here we go. So let's just talk about what's happening. And so this is from Yahoo News, or Yahoo News picked it up rather, but just more of the fiat failure, the global fiat failure that, can't be contained at this point. And the reason I think it's important to highlight this stuff is just because at this current moment, everyone for the most part, price current and future expectations for our, present financial situation as well as our future financial situation in whatever currency that is the legal tender of your country. And so Turkey is another good example of, regardless of what they're trying to do, people in that country who work, save, and invest with that particular currency, they have to do something. They have to be very strategic with what they do or what they have been doing over the last several years, given the fact that the Turkish lira has not been a currency that people really are it's in high demand. It's really not, other than just for the local sake there, but we can learn a lot by paying attention to what's happening there. So I'll just thumb through this headline real quick. It says, Turkey's recurring currency nightmare strikes again. And so I think Erdogan has tried to do several things. He's requested that people turn in their gold, people lease their gold to the state, to the country, and earn yield on their gold savings in the government's hands. And all type of other policies he's put out there, but nothing seems to work when it comes to trying to stabilize a failing fiat currency in the form of the lira, just because in and of itself, it has nothing, it has no foundation underneath it because it's debt in nature. So anyway, just a little, it says another 9% plunge in the Turkey's lira this month, and debt market danger gauges at levels not seen since 2008. 2008 global crash that prompted investor concerns that a fresh crisis might be brewing in the country. And so it's good to say at this current moment, it says the latest lira slump is down 20% this year, combined with soaring global energy and food price means inflation is now at 70% and rising. And that's just in Turkey. So once again, this fiat failure will not be contained whatsoever. So just imagine, as whatever country you're in, as a fiat currency is further destroyed or weaponized against the people, it only equates to a higher cost of living wherever you're at. So thought I would just shine some light on this current particular currency here, because this is not the only one. It's going to be a lot more coming real soon. Here's another one that's worth talking about once it loads. Let me get this on the screen here. Block this out. Give me 1 second here. This is Pakistan. Pakistan. You know, it's a relatively smaller country compared to the developed nations, but then again, once again, it impacts millions of people's lives. It says Pakistan in dire need of $36 billion to avert an economic collapse. And so what's funny about this, or it's not interesting, is that this particular country here is trying to go back to the IMF for more loans. At the same time, their currency is completely going belly up, on top of the fact that it was not really needed beyond the local people there. But it just says here, amid a depleting foreign currency reserves and crashing economy, Pakistan is in dire need of $36.7 billion in foreign exchange. Said the country's international bonds have lost almost 1/3 of their value, and finance minister has announced that Pakistan is yet to reach an agreement with the IMF. So once again, you're trying to refinance your debt with with the creators of debt. It just equals more pain and devastation for the people of Pakistan. So just another thing worth bringing to people's attention. Now let's get to something that is more. Oh, actually, let me just touch on this real quick. So this is something I wanted to talk about. So this was from yesterday. So some of these articles stem from today, yesterday, but yet all relevant to just the fiat currency and all those things. But you know, Jack Dorsey, as looks like he's leaving Twitter just because of all the newfound pressure on him and all that other stuff. So he's bailing, jumping ship. He got his cash out, got a several billion in his deal if it goes down. But he put out a question, and it got a lot of, interesting figureheads responding. It says, when did the dollar lose global reserve currency status? And so that was a question he put out there. And he's definitely becoming more outspoken against the globalist agenda, even though he's in the billionaire boys club. So, either he's been given permission to challenge people like this, or he might be going rogue. I don't know. Take of it what you may. But then there's been a lot of responses. Kyle Bass responded. We got Mike Alf. A lot of people out here chiming in. And the overall consensus is that utilizing the Dixie. And so that's one thing that economists and financial people love to focus on, the trade-weighted dollar index, which is the basket of 6 or 7 or whatever currencies that are all part of the fiat contagion is failing. But then again, that's a international Wall Street measurement of trade value, but yet your average Joe on Main Street should focus more so on the purchasing power of the Federal Reserve note. And no matter what, there's no financial future in this current debt-based system the way that it has been designed. That's why they're reconstructing it. So that's why I don't follow the Dixie model, just because I'm not, focused on the foreign exchange markets and things like that, because that's, for other people. I focus on helping people preserve and protect themselves by realizing that we're operating on fumes right now. And after this next crash occurs, I got some information I'm going to bring to you guys tonight about, just the digital transformation, how everything is set and ready to go, down to the very last T of making some changes in the Federal Reserve Act. So that's going to be some good stuff. But anyway, let's keep moving right along. And let me get back to my main article here. So reason I thought I would just mention that is because regardless of what the argument might be on the surface as to what the global reserve currency is and the status of the Federal Reserve note system and the SWIFT, it's irrelevant, because the central bankers have already determined that for themselves, they're going to hold something real and tangible that you can feel to protect themselves from their own monetary malfeasance. And of course, that's gold. So we've been talking about that forever. So just from a preservation standpoint, whatever is currently used now is pretty irrelevant because we know where they're trying to take us and we know what they want us to stay away from. So anyway, I thought I would just mention that because this plays into the next article. Because as of right now, despite the fiat failure in a lot of distressed nations, we have the two primary nations here, which are setting themselves up for global power status. The Yuan-ruble trading surges more than 1,000% as China and Russia draw close to together amid U.S. tension. So, isn't it interesting how there's a military conflict supposedly between Ukraine and Russia with these individuals here, and then we got Taiwan and China on the other side having a possible excursion any minute now, and so, but yet their currencies, as of right now, despite their internal issues being a debt-based system, both of these nations are, gold rich, heavy gold reserves, unknown to man as of right now, outside of China, naturally rich. So they have a lot of collaborative efforts going on right now. But give an idea real quick. It says Yuan ruble trading volume has surged 1,000% since Russia, whatever, in February. The jump in the Yuan ruble trading is one of the number of signs of China and Russia's strengthening their ties. The two countries signed a no limits. There's no limits to the friendship deal in February as they look to reduce the power of the U.S., i.e., no longer needing dollars, so they're de-dollarizing. So if this question was to be put back towards the, right now with this Jack Dorsey, when did the dollar lose global reserve currency? I would say based upon when China and Russia both started accumulating large amounts of gold for this particular time period, which initially started back after the dot-com crash. And so if you were to, let me real quick, so this is a little impromptu, little rant real quick, but if you were to go back and look, gold reserves, if you type in, let me grab this real quick, just for sake of helping people realize that regardless of where we're being steered towards, China and Russia have been accumulating for quite some time. So here is just a little visual aid to just highlight the steady increase in gold for Russia. And so this is from, I think it's a Golds R Us, if I'm not mistaken. Goldchartrus.com does a great job tracking the reserve status. This is what's been emitted via the World Gold Council. So of course, nothing leaves and everything there is maintained and stored. So just to go back here, this is a relatively older one, but as you guys can see, if I was to find an older one, late 99, early 2000, once the dot-com crash, that's when the writing was on the wall. That's when I guess the world knew where everything was going to transition to, because they're all transitioning at the same pace and same speed. They all got CBDCs planned for their rollout for their people, and they're all in this on the long-term side of things. But all these conflicts in between, military excursions or whatever, are part of the distraction tactic to keep our attention off that. But as you guys can see here, long story short, the reserve status lost its reserve status, in my opinion, when central banks around the world started accumulating gold after having basically unpegged themselves during that little 1971 Nixon closing the window to the dot-com phase. No country was really interested in having gold during that 20 or 30-year time frame there. But after the dot-com, that's when everybody started running back towards the global monetary anchor in the form of gold. So just a little something there. But of course, there's going to be more developments based upon this de-dollarization process between China and Russia. So stay tuned for that. So those fiat currencies there, just for them, it's I imagine their deals to the point where as long as their fiat currencies are stable, they don't mind having their currency swap deals, because they know at any minute, if they needed to, they can probably back those debt obligations up with something real. And for Russia, it's definitely their natural resources. And China, it's good to say that I'd imagine that Russia would definitely accept any type of gold coming his way. So, but anyway, more news here. So this is just some de-dollarization stuff that I think is worth mentioning. It says Russia is building a new bond payment system to get around U.S. sanctions as it tries to avoid a historic default. So as I mentioned, I think it was 2 weeks ago on May 26th, Janet Yellen, not by surprise, decided to not extend the emergency measure that allowed Russia to make due on their interest payments for to their creditors. And of course, by intention, they let it expire. And so now the clock is ticking towards the next debt payment due, I believe probably sometime in June. And so now Russia looks like, hey, even though they're not cooperating with us, we're still going to make due on our payment. So ultimately, what's happening here? The same process that was set in place for energy payments by setting up accounts inside of I think it's Gazprom Bank. So something of that similar nature here requires people to set up accounts. So let me say, a new system will be a mirror image of the one currently in place to handle natural gas exports. So you got to set up an account with us. We'll do the conversion on the back end, and then we'll be able to pay you in the currency that you choose, which whether it's dollars or whatever else. But you got to fund your account with currency so we can then pay you back on the other end. So, but once again, more de-dollarization right in our midst. All right, a couple more headlines here. Things worth bringing to your attention today, on top of a variety of other things. China announces detailed stimulus measures. So while the rest of the world's tightening, China's still stimulating. So we'll see how this experiment works out, where they're still easing, we're tightening. So it's going to be some hell of a riptides around the world to the financial markets, because everything between China and the U.S., everything in Europe, Africa, South America, will all be based upon the monetary responses when something in the system breaks next. Who's going to respond? How they're going to respond? I have my suspicion as to what's going to come afterwards, but I'll leave that to you guys. But just some information there to highlight that. And the next article here. So these are just going to be some news headlines that I'll share my 2 cents. But it says, Fed's Waller, if inflation doesn't go away, we need to raise rates a lot higher. So the rate at which they're trying to tighten is all subject to their ability to maintain that we're fighting inflation narrative, while also trying to prop up, protect the financial sectors around the world, global economy for the most part, as well as the current confidence in their primary product, what happens to be the Federal Reserve note and its digital derivatives. And so no matter what, whether they do pause, whether they continue to hike, whether they end up retracting that and going the opposite direction, once again, the only thing they can do is basically stall and jawbone the public with all these types of narratives as to what they're trying to do, where in actuality, to me, I think whatever their response is already too late. It's too late. The system is baked into the cake. And so now they're just trying to make sure that they don't get full blame as to how things unwind. But raising rates faster will only cause the economy to slow down that much faster. And therefore, it's going to probably increase the likelihood of there being some type of hiccup in the system, midsummer, late summer, who knows? But I think a lot of this was probably talked out today in that Jerome Powell Biden meeting, which I'm going to get on in a minute, where based upon the public admission from Biden, we shouldn't expect anything major, because, he's just doing what he's told to do. So anyway, next headline. Lagarde. So we can't not talk about the ECB, because they're all on the same experience. They're all on the same timing as far as trying to pretend as if they can do something. But it said Lagarde prepares for ECB liftoff with that more record inflation. So EU inflation, it's going crazy right now, but they're trying to tighten to a Great Depression as well. So it's interesting. But the European Central Bank's debate over how aggressively to tighten is likely to intensify this week in the prelude to a pre-decision blackout period, as data probably shows a new record of inflation. So their fraudulent numbers, 7.8-ish, 8. I think Germany, I saw some was 8 or something like that. But they're trying to argue as to whether they want to go fast or slow with this tightening. Yeah, comical. Anyway, but on the home front here, gasoline surges to a fresh record high and another blow to drivers. So this summer, as the heat intensifies, because here in Michigan, I must admit, it's been kind of warm the last couple of days for this time of the year. But this coming summer, July, August, could be scorching hot. Therefore, I talked about the article with blackouts and things of that nature. So just factoring overall energy costs, definitely, causing people to rethink some things overall. But just the numbers continue to climb until they do not. And they will definitely go down, but it'll be for a short period of time. And when they go down, that's going to be the crash event where, due to people's inability to be able to pay at the price that might be on the sticker pumps, they're going to have to lower those things a little bit. But then the Fed, if they respond the way that we all anticipate they will, whew, there's no ceiling to what a gallon of gas might end up costing in the end. Anyway, a couple more headlines here. Biden to meet with Federal Reserve Chair. Okay, but then we got this right here. It says, after the meeting, this is what was told. Biden basically says he respects the Fed. So I'm not going to stand in their way. They're independent and all the good stuff like that. So I'm going to let them continue to do what they do. I'm paraphrasing and just, summarize, give you my 2 cents of this. But, because, they are in control, they're a separate entity, we're going to just let them handle this and just bring this thing down however they want to bring it down. That's kind of what this boils down to. But it says Biden vows he won't interfere with Federal Reserve's move to fight inflation. And so it says, my plan to address inflation starts with a simple proposition: respect the Fed. Respect the Fed's independence. So if the central banking model is corrupt in nature, and at this current moment, it's good to say not too many people actually trust in our political representatives. What does that mean? It's going to be very turbulent moving forward. So to factor in, the turbulence will be reflected in the inability to secure what you need when you need it, because the primary tool that all central banks have are the currencies. And so just a quick check-in on the current short-term and the long-term trends of where and how we should view gold and silver in particular, based upon all the market gyrations. And, gold may be down one day, silver may be down one day. You never know. But then think long-term, it's quite easy to determine what's going to be best. So as of today, at this current moment, due to market manipulation, the actual number that they give us on screens in reference to an ounce of anything, can trend down. But then again, it's just in the developed world based upon the dollars or the U.S.-led entities being able to manipulate and set the price according to the future contracts they decide to dump on the market to protect themselves and also profit off of. But then again, look around the world as to how other currencies are responding at the same time, because the true nature of an ounce of anything in reference to gold and silver is the actual number of units of currency you need to acquire one, if you can and when you can, and if you can acquire what you want. The best way to do that is to look at other countries. So what I want to do is just comb through the world and price gold in regards to currencies and see which nations, if you had to run for cover into something outside of your currency today, where would you be running? And so we can see based upon the activity in the gold market. And of course, I want to compare it to today, the month or year and 10 years. But just real quick with the euro. So as of today, gold, the euro has strengthened slightly against gold. But if we were to look at over the last year, gold has fared pretty well in comparison to one digit of a euro. And so that's the 1 day, 1 year, and here's 10 years. So if you had acquired some physical metal in the long run 10 years ago, you would have done more than well as far as preserving, protecting yourself. So that's one thing there. Now, let me get to another country real quick. Just let's look at the dollar's activity today. So as we saw, the dollar Federal Reserve note is strengthening against gold today, but don't worry. Let's look at the 1 year. You would have done a little bit better in holding gold. But then again, if you look over the 10 year, you would have done even that much better. So, and this is using gold as the measuring stick. So I think it's going to be real important moving forward to not pay as much attention to the currency side of things other than referencing stories and how things are unfolding, because we use currencies to measure the cost of goods and services we need for our day-to-day lives. But when we're looking at a measuring stick for wealth preservation's sake, it's better to use, in my opinion, an ounce of gold or silver today in reference to what you might need in the future, well beyond the 1 day's activity, 1 year activity. I'm talking about 10 years. So regardless of how things remain or how things play out, if you look towards the future, so 1 ounce of gold, 1 ounce of silver in manipulated times still fares better than having currency, which automatically trends downward. But then again, you factor in by 2030-ish, give or take what the world looks like and where we're at that point, based upon the long-term viewpoint, you're going to probably have, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, even in manipulated markets, if they're able to maintain that level of purchasing power that's preserved in that 1 ounce. So that's why I look at this, just because people can get caught up in the day-to-day activity, knowing that the manipulation, in my opinion, can last for quite some time. Like I've become more convinced that because the game is so rigged, it's embedded in all the financial products and financial entities. And because, reason I say this, and because I saw a Mario video the other day, he talked about being patient and the need to be patient for stackers, how you can be a little discouraged because of the manipulation. But this has been going on for, decades now, ever since the window was closed, gold window was closed. And so they've done a good job of being able to maintain the level of manipulation, because you have politicians that ignore it. And a majority of politicians at this current moment has jumped on the Bitcoin wagon. So they're not going to talk about gold and silver on average. But then again, you got the private entities also transitioning towards the digital revolution as well. So other than just using silver for, hardware's sake, gold and silver is not a part of anybody's equations. So if you got government and you got central banks colluding together to transition us to a digital, that means that they can work together to make sure that they suppress the price as much as they can, so that most people will not want to run towards the metals because they're not moving, nominally speaking. But then again, if you look at it 5-10 year, it can only trend upward. It cannot, somebody let me know if I could be wrong. It cannot trend downward because it's priced in the currencies that they're creating out the wazoo. So it has to go up, long story short. Anyway, a couple more countries here just to highlight. Let's look at the British pound real quick on the short side of things. So the British pound doing fairly well today against gold. Don't be discouraged. Over the last year, if you'd have held an ounce, you'd have done pretty good preserving yourself. And of course, over the 10 year, you'd have done extremely well. And this is just in the developed nations. So this is a little reminder for you guys to be of good cheer. Let's look at the South African rand. As of right now, it's been relatively stable today. Been trading at par, it seems. Over the last year, if you lived in South America, you would have done well holding an ounce. And look over the last 10 years, you would have done even better. So I could go country to country, but the point is, regardless of whatever country I select here, in the end, people who hold real world things are able to protect and preserve a lot better than people who are caught up in the digital illusion, or those who are just speculating on sheer circumstance or happenstance, hoping that they happen to catch the next, 1000x, digital project as it goes through the roof or wherever it might go. So anyway, wanted to check in to let you know what's happening to fiat, global fiat fiasco, and shine some light on market activity for metals. And if you think long-term, you'll be just fine. Tim, I appreciate you, my man, for that love offering. And other than that, back at it tonight, 9:30 p.m. for the People's Talk Show. So bring your questions, bring your thoughts, bring your ideas, and we can talk it out then. So the goal is for the live stream to this evening is to give you guys more of a chance to connect via letting your voice be heard, so that we can get more calls in and things like that in a short, more concise manner. But anyway, wanted to check in. Hope everyone's doing well. Be blessed, be safe. And as always, for those that are not, join the social media platforms, the Telegram and Discord. Information is below. Share news. I'm going to grab the news from you and share with the community. That's the whole goal. So that's the best way we can all stay plugged in. So whatever part of the world you're in, definitely let us know what's happening in your neck of the woods by sharing the news stories. But anyway, people, be blessed, be safe. If you've enjoyed this quick little, scan through the news, looking at some headlines, share my 2 cents on it, hit that thumbs up button, show your support for the channel. And other than that, be back at it tonight, 9:30 p.m. Tell a friend, invite a friend. See you guys later. Peace.
The next recession.
Recession will be a recession.
We're going to hit a recession.
The date of the next recession.
A U.S.-only recession typically lasts 8 to 10 months.
A crash is coming. Now, whether it's 6 months from now, 12 months, 36 months, no one knows.
If you have the right plan to set up, you can make a lot of money from this.